Good morning and welcome to the programme. We are live from our Dungarvan studios, our first time back in West Waterford since the election. We want to hear about your views and what is bothering you or any issues that are concerning you, particularly anybody in the West Waterford area, because one of the things we've been talking about this morning online and our social media platforms, you can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter and on Instagram. You can also text us on 083 3333 975. You can call Audrey on 051 846 123. One of the issues that has been exercising the minds of people here is the fact that Waterford doesn't have what's called a local representative in the forthcoming Dáil. John Deise would have been the representative previously. He didn't run in the general election. Damien didn't get elected for Fine Gael, and John Pratt didn't get elected. So for the first time in decades, people are saying that West Waterford, that includes, I suppose, the line from Lemmy to the west, doesn't have a local representative. Does that bother you? Please let us know. Already some texts and comments are coming in about that. Also, almost half of young Irish adults live with their parents. The number of Irish people aged 25 to 29 living with their parents grew at one of the highest rates in Europe between 2007 and 2017, a new report has shown. We want to know, are you one of those people that is living with your parents? If you're a parent and you have your child, your grown child living at home, let us know. We'd love to talk to you this morning because it is an issue that some people think is grand. Sure, why not? Sure, if the son and daughter lives in the house, isn't it fine? And others are saying they can't wait to get rid of the son and daughter, get them out from beneath our feet. Let us know what you think, please. We're also going to be talking to Conor McGuinness. Conor is the supposed rising star of Waterford politics, possibly of national politics. He's a young man, he's in his early 30s, he's already been identified by David Cullinane of Sinn Féin as the next running mate for Sinn Féin in the general election, any forthcoming general election. He's a councillor, he's based in Onrine, he's giving his first, I suppose, extensive interview this morning, and we will be asking him all about the now infamous comments by David Cullinane on his election night. We're also going to talk to Conor Mulhall, General Manager of the Little Milk Company. We're going to be talking about Dungarvan businesses and dairy producing. Councillor James Tobin from the West made a comment there in the course of the council meeting recently regarding rural degeneration and problems in rural areas, saying one of the main issues was the stopping or the halting of the delivery of the milk bottle. So what do you think about that? Has that affected how people perceive things in rural areas? We're also going to be talking to Laura Erskine, a parenting expert, on 50 things a girl should do before she's 5. All those little things that little girls and children should do to make themselves, I suppose, set up for life in terms of activities and getting out and about. So if you're a parent listening to that this morning, you will want to listen to that. The weather's not looking great, so stay with us, please, for the next 2 hours. We have a packed show. We're also going to be talking about the amazing discovery at Gallows Hill here in Dungarvan. It is a mystery that you want to hear about. Firstly, I was out and about on the streets this morning, getting the views of some people about, does it matter if Dungarvan and West Waterford doesn't have a so-called local representative? I spoke first with Liam Rossiter, who runs a very well-known and famous butcher's here in the town. Liam, how's it going? Good morning.
Hi Damien, how are you?
Good. You're getting ready for the day?
Hopefully a busy one.
Good stuff, yeah. How's business?
Good, thanks Damien, yeah, plugging away now.
And is Dungarvan going well, or how would you describe it as such?
It is, it's a thriving town. This time of year is a little bit quieter than usual, obviously, because of the weather and everything, but come March, April time, things kick in again and we should be back to normal again.
Dungarvan didn't elect, or West Waterford didn't elect a local TD. Would it bother you? What do you think about it?
Well, it's a pity they didn't. There are a couple of local lads there that could have had a say in certain issues. It's a pity that any local issues now won't be addressed or may not be addressed, and that we're depending on the lads from Waterford to stand up for us. Hopefully they will. Because
they would say that they would do that, but there's a disconnect in some respects between West Waterford and the city.
There seems to be, ever since they took away Dungarvan Town Council, things seem to have moved more towards the city. That's just my opinion. And not having a representative at government level now, I don't think is much good to us.
And would it be something your customers would talk about, or would it really bother them, or is it kind of...
I suppose over the counter the main comments would be that it's a pity. Damien Gagan was a great local man and did an awful lot for the town over the years as a local councillor. and it was a pity he didn't make the government bench.
John Pratt was there from Tallow.
That's correct, yeah, and John as well, a good Labour man there as well, yeah. Hopefully the lads are in there. We'll do something.
See what happens, yeah. And best of luck, have a good day.
Thanks, Damien.
What's the cut of the day? What's the joint of the day?
Steaks. Strip line steak.
You're a Lismore man. What's your own name?
Dave.
Hello, Dave. We're doing a little piece about representation in the Dáil. There's no TD from West Waterford. What do you think?
Very disappointing. Very disappointing. I suppose we hadn't one really since Deise, and not good for the whole area. Small businesses are suffering big time. Local butchers, small grocery shops, they're all closing down. It's all about Lidl and Aldi and all the big ones. That's about the size of it.
Like Liam is doing well here. You deliver. What do you do yourself?
I deliver pork and bacon, rashers, sausages, cooked meats.
So you'll be meeting a lot of people as you go along.
Well, I go down to the city as well, and like any place I'm calling to, like people, we're just surviving now, just about, and that's being honest about it.
What's the perception of, we'd say, people in Tallow or Lismore with Waterford City? Do they feel connected to it?
I don't think so. No. It's like two different counties, being honest. You know, I suppose it's like Jay, like you've the west and you've the east, and
people try to break down those barriers, don't they? But it's difficult.
Of course it is, yeah. But even I see below in the city myself now. I deliver there, and like the centre of Waterford, like I think it's dying. The centre of the city. You know, like Dungarvan isn't too bad, I suppose, with the supermarket and the shops, they're all near each other. But you go to Waterford City, like you have Tesco's maybe on the outskirts, and it's not helping the centre of the town. So. And
you tried your best to, like, you gave a lot of votes to John Pratt and Tallow.
And I'd always vote for a local person.
Yeah, would you?
You know, and John is a good worker.
It wouldn't matter who that person would be.
And Damien and another man, they're good workers, so I'd always vote for the local man, and we're hoping he could do a bit of work for the people of the West.
And what about some of the 4 TDs that are there? They might say that they will work for you as well.
Well, look, I think all the TDs, you see them once every 4 years, they come around and promise so much, and a lot of them don't deliver that. You know, so.
Well, you're delivering this morning, so we better.
Well, I have to deliver, Damien, so that's my livelihood.
What's this man like here? What's his name?
That's David.
That's David. He's working away there.
He's working away, yeah.
Is he any good?
Oh, he's very good, John. Yeah.
Well, mind yourself and safe travels on the roads.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, Damien, thanks.
Damien Tiernan from WLR, how are you doing?
Pleased to meet you.
Pleased to meet you. What's your own name?
Maureen Hickey. Maureen, yeah.
We're doing a little piece about the fact that Dungarvan doesn't have a TD. What do you think?
I think maybe it should. I think so, Dundee. It should have a TD, shouldn't? I think so, yes.
You think it's bad that it doesn't?
It's bad, I think it doesn't. Yeah, there should be some kind of, it should indeed. Yes,
representation.
Indeed. Representation, like, and everything.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Pat, you having a bit of breakfast here in the Shamrock? Nice place to have a bit of breakfast.
What it is, yes. Top of the range.
What about this idea of Dungarvan doesn't have a TD? What do you think?
We definitely do need a representative, a TD, but I don't think Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael would be the main representative there as for TDs. Like, if they put something into the hospital last year, the year before, housing in hospital, health situation, they're the main topics, not just here but all over Ireland. So,
and does it feel like, do people locally feel a bit annoyed that there isn't somebody local?
Of course they do, big time, yeah. I would have liked to see Matt Shanahan getting in as a TD. I know he got in, but if he become a TD.
And he would be in the east of the county, and yet he picked up a fair few votes down in the west.
A lot of votes. He was up here canvassing, and he picked up a lot of votes here. And a gentleman, a grassroots gentleman.
So you'd be hoping him and somebody like him and others will do work for Dungarvan.
Exactly, yeah.
Does it matter that Dungarvan doesn't have a TD?
Oh, it does, yeah, big time. For employment and jobs and whatever else goes on, you do need a representative here. Yeah. In Dungarvan.
So if there was an election now in the next 2 months, people might vote differently?
I say they would, yeah. But Leo Varadkar only came down here the last day of the election. They got the canvass on the Friday before the election. Like, he should have been here weeks before that, trying to raise the vote. We'll
let you get on and get your day on.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Thank
you. John, how's it going? You just came out of the kitchen to talk to me. Thanks very much.
No problem at all.
Just starting off today. You have a busy place here. How many meals would you serve in a day now?
I don't know, like anything. This time of the year is quietish.
Quieter,
yeah, but you know, like you do, on a good day, you know, you could do 200, 300 people, like, you know, so it's good, like it is. We're happy. We're happy here. We're happy out.
Good. You're a young man in starting off in life.
Yeah.
What do you think of Dáil representation and TDs and politics and all that?
Well, I would never really. Well, at the moment, I'm not favouring any party over anyone. You know, I'd obviously vote on what I think is best for Dungarvan itself. Like, but you know, I think when they all get in, they all do the same thing, kind of go ahead a bit. So. And the fact that Dungarvan doesn't have a local TD now. Yeah, it is. The West Waterford. Yeah, West Waterford. Like, it's the first time ever. Like, you know, so it is disappointing. But we kind of hope for maybe the people that are elected can represent us in some way. What, you know, we have a great town here. It's absolutely booming in the summertime. Like, you know, so there's no reason why people couldn't be putting it more on the map, like, and doing things for Dungarvan. What's the specials today? We're getting fish in today, so everything is fresh fish today. Thanks very much. No problem.
Everything is fresh fish. What do you think? 083 333 975. Text or WhatsApp. Aoife O'Donovan has contacted me through Twitter, and she says, Damien, a few thoughts on this matter. It's important to say that I believe we haven't had a fully representations in West Waterford since 2016, when John Deise took his role in the US. We've been underrepresented since then. There's a bigger question as to why the county feels disjointed. Why is there even a difference between our City, Tramore, Portlaw TDs? Why is there even a worry that there is no TD? I'd hope to see the incoming TDs make an effort to understand the issues in West Waterford. There is more than opening their constituency office once a day. The county in the South East region has been underdeveloped for such a long period of time. Would love to see a more joined up approach to see every part of the county thrive. Other people texting in something similar to that. Geography is important, but I would vote for ability rather than geography, says this person. I've been on to into David Cullinan's office in Dungarvan a few times, and he's been great. Other people saying that Fine Gael should have done more in the past locally, particularly John Deise here in the Dungarvan area. So keep your texts and comments coming in. I am going to be talking straight next to Conor McGuinness, who is a Sinn Féin councillor. He's from Onrine, and he is going to be talking about what is going to happen next for Sinn Féin. What do you think? If you voted for Sinn Féin, if you're one of the more than 20,000 people in this constituency that voted for Sinn Féin in the last general election, will you change your mind if there is an election next week? Conor McGuinness, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. A little sleep deprived. As you know, we have a new little baby at home, 7 weeks old on Friday, and she's doing very well, little girl. So Raeltine Frida is her name. Her mum is German, so we've gone with an Irish and a German name.
Raeltine Frida. How did you? What does Raeltine mean?
Raeltine, it means little star.
So
I
suppose
Frida,
anybody, the German connection,
and Frida after her mammy's family.
Lovely. How did you meet your wife? What's your wife's name?
Pia. We met in Cork. We were both working down there, and we bumped into each other, and one thing led to another. A number of years later, we have a little bundle of joy.
What part of Germany is she from?
She's from the northwest of Germany, up close to the border with the Netherlands.
And how long are you back living in Dungarvan in Onrine? Or where are you living at the minute?
I'm living in Onrine.
Yep.
I'm lucky to live in the beautiful Gaeltacht area. I returned home in 2014, having lived abroad for a number of years. I went away, like many people in my generation, during the recession to find work. I lived in the Basque Country and in Spain. So I've been living at home since 2014.
Have you always been imbued with politics? Like, have you been working for Sinn Féin for many years?
Yeah, I joined Ogra Sinn Féin, which is the youth wing of Sinn Féin, when I was 15. We set up an Ogra group, an Ogra branch here in West Waterford. And since then I've been involved in political activism and politics. I've always had a keen interest, and it's more, Damien, an interest in the possibilities of what we can change, how we can make society better, how we can deliver on the potential of our country and our communities, rather than counting numbers, looking at tallies and that kind of thing. It's more than a passing interest, I suppose. It's a passion for change and the possibilities.
And how old are you now?
I'm 33.
Okay, so more than half of your life you've been involved with with Ógra Sinn Féin and now with Sinn Féin. So
you make me feel old when you say it like that. But
yeah,
yes,
but you're a lifetime politician in that sense.
Yeah, and I always balked at the idea or the word politician. I never really enjoyed that one, but I guess that's probably an accurate description. I see myself as an activist, somebody who's grounded and approaches this with a view to change for the better. And I would see that I would like to see my work in politics accomplished and done, and move on to something else in terms of having helped in some way to deliver the change that I think that our communities and our country really needs.
Are you a methodical person? Are you one of these people that people say Sinn Féin get these young lads and young women involved and they become imbued with this sense of, I suppose, a mission?
I would like to be methodical. If you looked at my desk, you'd struggle to see any kind of method. It can be quite messy and chaotic, but yeah, I do see that Republicans have a mission, and that's to unite our country, and that's not just about the North and the South, but to really unite our country, to bring out the best of what we have to offer, and to bring about the social and structural changes we need. And that's in terms of our economy, and in terms of how we address natural resources, in terms of the rights that our people should have to basic necessities of human life, such as housing and healthcare.
Is everything you do geared towards a united Ireland?
Is everything I do? No. There's more to Sinn Féin than Irish unity in many respects.
I understand that, but the ultimate goal is united Ireland.
Well, the ultimate goal is a new republic that comprises the whole of the island of Ireland, but not just. We don't want to see, I suppose, a territorially bigger state where people still go hungry, where people still languish on waiting lists, where people still go without a home or are cramped into overcrowded housing. That would be no good, and that wouldn't deliver, I suppose, on the potential of our country. That wouldn't deliver on the expectations of our people, and it wouldn't deliver on the vision of generations of Republican men and women. Because
that goes to the heart, that question and that answer goes to the heart of where republicanism is, because we've always had this issue in Republicans: what sort of republic do we want? And secondly, is there a stagist approach to it? Should we get rid of the border or fight for a united Ireland and then deal with social issues? Or do they go parallel? Or does one, for example, if you get involved in social issues, does that help you become a united Ireland?
Well, I think the approach of Sinn Féin is very clear, and the first thing I'd say is that we're campaigning for a united Ireland. I'm very lucky to be one of a generation of Republicans that don't have to fight for a united Ireland, where we have the political opportunities and the political means to bring that about democratically and peacefully, and I'm very lucky and I'm very glad about that. But to answer your question, Sinn Féin's approach is very clear, and we represent the people who elect us, the people who expect us to represent them, and that's absolutely in terms of campaigning for Irish unity, but it's about, as David Cullinane has done here, championing issues around access to healthcare, standing up for those people who are waiting sometimes many years for normal, what should be considered normal treatments in a functioning, a properly functioning health service, a health service that's adequately funded, that's adequately prioritised by governments, and that's where we see ourselves. It's not about. It's not only about campaigning for Irish unity, it's about making an Ireland that's truly united and that truly works for the people within it.
You mentioned David Cullinane. He has name-checked you already. He's identified you as the next candidate, as his running mate in the next general election.
Well, the decision over candidacy, and I have to say I'm very flattered. He's not the only person to have said it, and it is nice to be spoken about in such positive terms.
He said it's going to happen.
A decision over candidacy, as David and you well know, is for the membership. But yeah, like I said, it's a nice place to be, to have people speaking about you. Just
because
in terms,
you tick the boxes in the sense that we're doing pieces this morning about West Waterford not having a TD. The geography works very well. The demographic works very well. The age profile, you're young. You're in that thing. You're not interfering with his city vote, so it ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, I can see the logic to it. There's two things I'd say to that. The first would be that West Waterford had a TD in the last Dáil who was based here, who offered very little in the way of representation, who wasn't available, I suppose, for his parliamentary work, wasn't available to you and your colleagues in the media.
He would say that his office was open all the time. He did a lot of representations.
And he might say that. But it's very clear that we were without representation from that particular TD. We had a situation at the same time where we had a TD in David Cullinan, and we have since the last election a TD in Cullinan who's based in the city, who's from the city, but who operates an office here, who's available to people here, who works very closely with me in terms of making representation. So absolutely it's accurate to say that there isn't a TD from Dungarvan or from West Waterford, but that's not to say that David Cullinan, for example, and I'm sure the other TDs will make the same argument, don't also represent people from Youghal Bridge up as far as the Mahon Bridge.
Yeah, they would. So you work full-time with Sinn Féin?
I work as a full-time councillor.
Full-time councillor. Are you working in the office as well? Have you a job? Like before you became a councillor, were you working with them full-time?
I was working with one of our MEPs. I was working with Leah Nuriad as their constituency manager.
Okay, so you have a full-time job within the party structures. Regarding the next general election, whenever that may be, if it's in the next two months or 6 months or whatever the case may be, do you think Sinn Féin will get as big a vote as it did in the last election, 20,000 votes here in Waterford?
I think we have a challenge and a job to do to retain votes, to retain the support, the huge amount of goodwill and support that we were given in the very recent general election. I would say that if we were to have a general election in the next number of months, that would be a slap in the face to the people who voted. I think that a little over a week ago, people turned out in very miserable weather and stormy conditions in their droves to vote and to vote for change. And politicians, elected representative, and the political parties have a responsibility to make good on that and to work with one another and to put on, as I would say, their big boy shoes and their big girl shoes and actually make this work. I think no party will be rewarded if we go back to the people. And for our part in Sinn Féin, we're doing the business. We're talking to people. We have the door left wide open. We're even talking to people who tell us that they don't want us to talk to them. Believe that one or not. And as many people will have seen, the Sinn Féin negotiating team had high-level talks with senior civil servants yesterday about implementing our programme for government. So I'm hopeful that we'll have a government, but I think rather than an election, I think another election would not be in the best interest of the country. It might come to that. There might be no alternative, but we'll do our damnedest, I suppose, to prevent that and to make good on the mandate that the people have given us.
You said it would be a challenge to retain votes. Every party would say that. Is that challenge partly relating to the comment that David Cullinan has explained quite adequately, the up the Ra comment? How has that, or will it in any way affect your vote, do you think?
Doubtless, some people were taken aback, some people were offended, and many people, I would imagine, were disappointed with that particular comment. Now, David has addressed it. I think he's explained it, and I think a lot of people have accepted that explanation. I wouldn't see that there's a whole lot more to say on it. It remains to be seen how people respond electorally.
I'm not asking you to comment on the comment itself, but how do you think that that's going to play out in terms of the effect that may have on a percentage of the electorate?
I think that David's record will be the most important characteristic. We've already spoken about the geographic thing in West Waterford, and anybody who looked at the results coming in and looked at the tallies in the count centre a little over a week ago will have seen that the people of West Waterford, for example, turned out in their droves to vote for David. They parked the geography question, if you want to put it that way, at the door when they went into the polling station because they recognised his abilities, his unique abilities, his capacity, his passion for Waterford, and they parked the geographic considerations at the door. I would hope that people would also see past comments made, I would say in error, and look at his abilities and his work record, his work ethic, and his tremendous ability. He's from bench material, and we'll park that at the door when they go in to vote the next time. I don't know how people will vote.
We don't know.
Nobody does.
We're not.
But I would hope that people would look towards the positives in what David has to offer.
Yes, I understand that. And you're a politically astute person from what you said in terms of your history, and you know how politics works. And perception can have an effect on some people. So a lot of those votes that Sinn Féin got, some of them, they were lent. For example, Damien Gagan was talking here in Dungarvan about people that would have voted for him were voting for Sinn Féin. He couldn't believe it. So a lot of people have trusted ye with the vote. And that vote is very precious, as you say.
Absolutely, Damien, and I agree with you, but I would say that all votes are lent. Votes are only lent in our system for a 5-year term, or for less than that on occasion. Nobody should take the electorate for granted. We certainly don't. We never have. And that's why I'm saying that we will do everything we can to make good on the mandate we were given. We were given a huge mandate, a mandate to go in there and deliver change, and we're going to do our best, despite the attempts by other political parties to ignore us, to vilify us, or to leave us out in the cold. But we're not going to be left out in the cold, because it's not about us, it's about the people we represent, and they've put their trust and their faith in us. They've given us a democratic mandate. It's irrefutable, and we won't be left out in the cold.
Will you go into government? Would you vote to go into government with Fianna Fáil if the programme for government was agreeable to yourself?
Well, that's the question answered pretty much. If I agreed with the programme for government, yes. We need a programme for government that delivers on the issues that I've already outlined in this interview, and that Sinn Féin representatives have outlined at length during the campaign and since. That's issues around housing and healthcare. If we can agree a programme for government that actually addresses those, that addresses the climate change crisis, that it addresses the crisis in healthcare, and that actually builds the amount of homes that we need to house our people in, then absolutely, yeah. I mean, it'd be a betrayal, I suppose, of our mandate if we didn't take the opportunity to go into government and to implement the changes that we campaigned on to deliver.
How's the nighttime feeding going?
I have a fantastic and extremely strong partner in Pia who handles all of that. But yeah, we're up several times a night feeding and burping and dealing with all that and through the day as well.
That's just you, not the baby.
But do you know what, Damien? I mean, I've said it countless times. People are saying, "Oh, how are you getting on? How's the baby? How are you getting on?" And I launch into a litany of, "Oh, well, we're not sleeping and we're up all night." And they just kind of look at me, their eyes glaze over, and they say, "Yeah, well, what did you expect?" I mean, everybody who's had a child, anybody who's looked after a baby knows that. So a rude awakening for us both, but we're overjoyed and we're besotted. Your daughter's
a little star. Are you going to be the next star of Waterford politics?
Oh, God, I don't know. That's a very funny way of asking the question. I'm flattered at the question. I've never sought stardom. Let me put it that way.
Conor McGuinness, thank you very much.
Thanks, Damien.
Thank you very much, Conor. Appreciate it. A lot of texts coming in. I'll get to some of them in a while. Sinn Féin got 1 in 4 votes. Others also got a mandate. I voted Sinn Féin for the first time in my life. In the past, I never said I would. I'm fed up with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. If there's a second election, I'd still vote Sinn Féin. Damien, just want to say Mary Butler provides comprehensive representation to the people of Dungarvan and West Waterford and the city as a whole. Damien, I know a family with medical cards that are not entitled to it. They got it 3 years ago and they still have it. Thanks to Sinn Féin they got it. Damien, I don't think we can afford a united Ireland. Damien, the city is very lopsided with the city down in the very corner of the city. If the city was in the middle of the county, it would be much better. That's from Paul. Conor, will we start moving Waterford City down to Kilrossenty? Down to
we take in part of Wexford and then it'll be in the middle of the county.
We could take it all in, yeah, we could take it all in. Move the city. So let us know, where would you like to relocate Waterford City to? Would we go with Kilrossenty? Would we go with Fuse? Would we go with Kilmac maybe?
That sounds good.
Sounds okay, yeah? Okay, I'm going to be joined by Conor Mulhall straight after this. We want to know your thoughts on milk and cheese, please. What's your favourite milk? What's your favourite cheese? Conor is smiling at me here now. Stay with us. Now, keep your texts and comments coming in. Damien, it's unfortunate we in Dungarvan don't have TDs, but the people voted for others. That's just the way it is. Isn't that telling you something? People are sick and tired of the same things. Now we're going to talk to Conor Mulhall. Let's just say here, we'll do a little bit for Facebook on this. Conor Mulhall, good morning.
Morning, Damien. How are you?
Good, thank you. You are with the Little Milk Company, selection of 5 organic farmhouse cheeses in this box here. Yeah. We mentioned you on the programme yesterday because Tom Doorley was on, and tell us you've won an award.
Yeah, so Georgina Campbell does an awards ceremony every year for the Irish Breakfast Awards. So it calls out the best hotels to perform breakfasts, the best guest houses, etc. And it also calls out some products that are there. So we were lucky enough to win an award on Monday for our mature cheddar, and that was used by the chef up there as part of the platter. So we did some cheese fritters, but look, it was great. It's always great to win an award and get a bit of recognition to the stuff you're doing, you know.
I've played against you on the football field.
Yes, we Ballymena for the football and St Oliver's for the juvenile. Yes, all good. Yeah.
Tell us about the little milk company? Remind people about it.
Yeah, so look, we're located just outside Dungarvan here, a group of organic dairy farmers. The nearest organic farmer we'd have in our group is down in Kilmeaden. You'd probably know him, John Stevenson. He has the Up to Deise trailer out on the road just there before the roundabout. And take the organic milk and we get cheese made with it. So we make a range of cheeses. We make a lovely blue with Cashel. We make some raw milk cheddar with Knockanaore out in West Waterford. We make some cheddar down in Mogeely with Dairygold, and we sell it here at home here in Dungarvan. We sell it in the country store with Conor Lannan. You can get it in SuperValue and Tesco up in the city, and we have we do a lot of export. We'd sell it to America, and we're in about 14 different countries selling the products, which is great.
Wow, how are you profitable at present?
Yeah, thank God. Yeah, it's all good.
How many people employed?
So we have Carol and Vicky and myself out in the office. Jessica does some part-time work for us as well. And then I suppose between the farms and Dungarvan Transport do the transport for us. There's a lot of sort of indirect jobs we wouldn't employ directly, but we'd support those jobs.
We were just talking off air about change and how companies change. Like, how difficult do you find processes of change within companies? Like, you did an MA yourself in WIT.
Yeah.
What's the important thing if anybody's listening to this and looking to try and instigate change within a company?
Well, I think as with anything, with the election now, I think with anything in life, I think people want to buy into something bigger. They want to know if there's a vision out there of what they can be part of, whether it's for ourselves, for organic produce and how you treat the soil and how you treat the planet, and people buying into that, whether it's from an election point of view and people buying into what sort of country they want to have, whether it's in a sporting context that people want to, put their shoulders to the wheel and drive on to win an All-Ireland or to win a local county championship or whatever. I think people need to buy into something bigger, into a larger vision or a sort of a picture of what the future would look like.
So should you stress the negative of the past, or should you stress the potential positive or the future?
I think people are more attracted to the positive.
Give me that line that you said.
Oh yeah. So I myself and Damien were chatting off air, and I just said that I did a project a couple of years ago about change, and people will change if the future is better than the present, or if the present isn't good. Like, people will, if what their current situation is bad, they want to get out of that and into something better, or if someone can sell them a picture of the future that is good, they'll buy into that. You think about Greta Thunberg last year with the whole environmental thing, and she's pointing out how if we don't change what's happening now, and we're seeing all the forest fires and we're seeing all of that down through the way I suppose we're treating the planet, and she's trying to get us to buy into something, the future, a better future for ourselves, for our kids, for our grandkids, etc. And I think that's very important. And I think people nowadays, when they're out spending their money in the stores, people are making decisions around what they're buying. More people are buying local, which is great. More people are buying, from our point of view, they're buying organic, which is good because it treats the soil very well. And also, I think a lot of people are continuing to buy Irish and to buy local, which I think is very important because it supports jobs in your community. It supports your local producers. It supports your local shops, your local restaurants, and I think that's all really vital for the sustainability of local communities.
So with that, you can understand then how politicians would purport to put forward this idea of change.
Yeah.
And that word change, in people's minds, it can mean so many different things to so many different people. So the likes of Trump could use it, and then a left-wing party could use it, because you're talking about your life isn't happy at the moment, but we have a vision to make it better. And also,
you look in the UK, like it's get Brexit done. It's a one-liner. You look in America, make America great again, America first, and and they're the ones I suppose that we didn't buy into, and then they're the ones we did probably buy into when Obama was saying yes we can. Like, they're kind of a one-liner that everybody can nail their own hopes and dreams to, and therefore we can all buy into sort of a statement that means nothing, but it can mean something for us, So I think therefore, there's a lot of obviously change in the political world at the moment. I think what's important for local communities is that they support each other. And all those times we were very good during the recession to be helping each other out, to be shopping local, to be spending money in our local bars and restaurants, to keeping jobs in Waterford, in Dungarvan, in the city. I think that's really important. And I think, from our own point of view, as I say, like, we've a farmer down in Kilmeaden, we make cheese out in West Waterford, we've the office just outside Dungarvan. If you buy it in Conor Lannan's shop in the country store, you've supported 4 local, you've sort of 4 people there that are getting, when you're spending your 4 or £5 on something nice for a Friday night, rather than buying something that's imported. If you can make that decision to forget about the air miles, buy something local, I mean, that helps your local community, and that helps everybody to buy into something bigger, you know.
And that's not just platitudes, is it?
No, I don't think it is. Like,
no,
I mean,
because it really is. It's real money.
Well, I mean, if you look here in Dungarvan, we're in Dungarvan today, and you look at we mentioned earlier about all the new restaurants and bars that are opening because of primarily, I suppose, because of the Greenway and the amount of people coming. You can see what bringing people, local people, to an area has done. There's a huge amount of extra employment in Dungarvan. You see any of the places that were maybe run down a couple of years ago are now all done up with, with bars and restaurants in it. Yeah, that brings more people to the area, and that sort of is a virtuous cycle, so everybody's helping out, and that can only be a good thing, you know, because therefore they're sustainable long-term jobs that make the area better. It means kids, when they're going to college, can come back here. They don't have to go off and work in Dublin or London or New York. They can come and live here because, you know yourself, Damien, living in the southeast, it's a great quality of life.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the weather's terrible today, but in general the weather was pretty good.
That's tropical.
It's tropical, exactly.
Warm rain.
So if people, when they're spending their fiver or they're having their night out, you know, if they can think about where they're spending their money, I think it really does have a positive effect on the area, and therefore that brings more, you know, keeps jobs, keeps people in the area. And that's really important. There's a lot of, you look at the west of Ireland and there's a lot of rural depopulation. You see GA clubs are losing numbers. I was chatting to a guy last weekend from Carrick-Iveen, and they were, the club of Morris Fitzgerald, and they're finding it hard to field teams. You know what I mean? When just the numbers aren't there, people are leaving there and they're moving to the bigger parts of Kerry or the bigger parts of Ireland and Dublin and Galway, etc. So I think, you know, when you're spending your money, it's really important. The effect you can have as a consumer is huge. I mean, you know, we spend billions of euro every week. If we can tailor that and put it down towards supporting local shops, supporting local restaurants and supporting local producers, that just means that your kids in 10 years' time will have somewhere to work in the locality, you know.
Conor Mulhall, General Manager of the Little Milk Company in Dungarvan, thank you very much. As they just won the Best Irish Breakfast Dairy Producer at the Georgina Campbell Good Food Awards. The young lads are playing a bit of hurling and Gaelic.
They
best
are
of luck
indeed.
to them. And
Yeah.
How's Ballymena looking for the season ahead?
Yeah, they're out training on Sunday mornings and they've been cooked breakfast and everything, so it's great to see it. Hopefully
Sorry, they've
now.
been cooked breakfast?
Yes, absolutely.
After training?
Oh, after training, yeah. If you come down to Ballymena Hall now on a Sunday morning, you'll see the lads will be giving True the Irish now, are supporting them. They're getting eggs and everything there. It's great.
I hope they're not getting too much stuff that would create a little bit of a tummy, no?
No, well, I mean, you need to winter well too, Damien, you know, if you're going playing football or hurling.
Who are you telling? Good luck.
Thanks a million.
Welcome back to our Dungarvan studios. Thank you very much for the lovely texts and comments. Lady phoned in since Kilmeaden cheese was moved up to Kilkenny. She hasn't eaten Kilmeaden since. Oh my God. A special hello to everybody working in Garrett. That's the factory in Water, a number of factories in Waterford. Honeywell, I suppose they would have been known as. And a special hello to Lockie and everybody working in Garrett. Now, keep your texts and comments coming in. Very impressive from Conor with the Little Milk Company, says this person. Support where you live locally, spend locally. We'll have a thriving city and county instead of knocking ourselves. Damien, I would vote Sinn Féin again. They're better than the last lot. I'm over 70. And Kathleen Nihey has been in touch. She's opening a new lovely fish restaurant called Iasc, I-A-S-C, Iasc in O'Connell Street tomorrow. So we might talk to Kathleen over the next few days. The very best to look to that. There's a sign of good things to come. Now, looking at things in the past, the mystery that is Gallows Hill. Christine O'Connor is from Dungarvan. Christine, she's on the line now. Christine, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
How are you?
Thank you for ringing.
Not at all.
I'm
not
good,
at all.
thanks.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. You work with Dungarvan Museum, do you?
Yeah, I'm a community volunteer with Waterford County Museum, and I've been with the museum for a number of years now. And I suppose over the past 5 years, I've been helping organise a community archaeology project at Gallows Hill.
Okay.
Which is...
For those that don't know Gallows Hill, tell me a little bit about Gallows Hill, please.
Yeah, well, Gallows Hill is a large man-made mound, and it sits right on the edge of Dungarvan town. It's a fairly large mound. It's about 8 metres high, about 40 metres, 45 in circumference. And I suppose for a long time we haven't known anything about the site. We didn't know the history, what its purpose was. So back in 2015, we decided we'd try and solve the mystery of the site, but also try and improve its reputation. It had been neglected for a number of decades. with bonfires. So we wanted to find out what was the purpose of the hill and I suppose make people appreciate it a little bit more.
Yeah, and your findings have been very interesting, to say the least. We're looking at potentially evidence of a settlement of late Iron Age and early Christian period.
Yeah, which is absolutely fascinating. I mean, when we began the project, I suppose we would have been happy to find any evidence of settlement. And what we were finding, I suppose, over the first few years, that the story of Gallows Hill, it fitted very uniquely into the history of Dungarvan. So an Anglo-Norman town with a castle that was built in the early 13th century. So what we were finding is that it was possibly an Anglo-Norman motte. So one of the earliest castles when the army were, I suppose, pushing into the country and trying to seize control. But that's changed quite dramatically, I suppose, over the last few weeks with radiocarbon dating evidence. And what we've got back is that we have found a ditch. There's 3 ditches altogether around the site, but one of these ditches, which we really didn't get very far into, we really only skipped the tip of the ditch. So it's quite likely this ditch was cut much earlier. And the date that we've got back is between 400 AD and 500 AD. So really exciting for the group, but also for the town and the history as we know it.
Is this, does this possibly reframe the history of Dungarvan?
It does completely. I mean, Dungarvan's known as an Anglo-Norman town. It's known as to be founded. It's the earliest, I suppose, any evidence we have of Dungarvan is all based around the Anglo-Norman period. So this brings us back over 1,600 years ago. And likely, if we decide to go back, it'll bring us back a great deal further than that. So it completely changes the history of the town as we know it, or as we have known it, I suppose, over recent centuries. So it's exciting.
Yeah. What happens next, or how long are you going to continue working on it? What needs to be done now, Christina?
Well, the plan last year in 2019, it was, because it's very much a community excavation. It's about getting local volunteers involved and I suppose revealing their own history. We had planned on finishing this year because we really thought we'd come to the end of the story with Gallows Hill and there wasn't a great deal more that we could find. So I suppose in the past 3 weeks, that's completely up in the air. And there's a lot more questions that need to be answered. So possibly this year we may go back, I suppose, and just find what we really want to know is how far back can we go with Dungarvan. And like I said, possibly a lot earlier because the settlement evidence we have is maybe later in the life of the ditch. So maybe this year we may go back and look at doing a small community excavation just to maybe answer these final questions. And then after that, maybe look at, I suppose, retelling the story and getting children and the local community involved in, I suppose, retelling this new story of the town.
Are you possibly underselling yourself, Christina? Should this be part of a national project now? Should it be done in a more...
Well, it is, yeah. I mean, I suppose it's got to a stage, the community now have done so much work, I suppose, over the last 5 years. And I suppose the story every year is becoming more and more interesting. So once, I suppose, we have this final question and know for sure just how far back it does go, it would certainly be good to maybe make it a wider story and I suppose really bring it into the story of the town. I mean, Dungarvan's got so much to offer, not just to the local community, but tourists coming in. So it's certainly something that we'd like to look at doing, working with Waterford Council and, other bodies to maybe get this story, I suppose, out there more.
Yeah. And finally, why is it called Gallows Hill? I presume it's because there was a gallows there. They used to execute people, was it? Or was it a jail?
That's it, yeah. No, the name comes from what we found last year now is the name comes from the last use of the hill, which is interesting because it's the name that's stuck. And what we found last year, we found on top of the summit of the hill, we opened a small trench 2 metres wide by 12 metres long. And in that trench, we found 7 human burials on the summit. And it's likely there are many more on the summit. We think that the radiocarbon dates for that came back also a few weeks ago. And that's showing that these people were buried between, maybe 1500 seems the likely date, but between 1500 and 1600. And it wasn't a once-off burial. It seems to have been burials that were placed over maybe a considerable period of time. So possibly this was when the site was used as a gallows. And we're hoping to get a lot more information in the next few weeks on those people. We've done isotopic samples, which will tell us were they local, everything really, the food they ate, the diet they had, diseases they may have had. So we'll be able to build a good picture of these people and maybe a bit of a story behind them as well.
Christina O'Connor from Dungarvan Museum, thanks for joining us this morning.
Lovely, thanks Damien.